everybody. Welcome back to the Resleevables Chronicles edition. I'm your host, Cedric Phillips at Cedric A. Phillips on all the things. I am, of course, joined by Patrick Sullivan at Basic Mountain on Twitter/X. I'm just going to go ahead and get it out right now. This is a pack of Chronicles, but it's my other camera here too. There it is. What's in here? Someone will find out when we do our crack-a-pack. That's a little foreshadowing for you fine folks. But more importantly, Patrick, what's in here? Not good.
No, not really.
It's not good.
Well, this is at least a set where there are some hits, full stop.
Okay.
Some of the ones we've done recently, Ice Age, for example, 4th edition, arguably, you're really struggling to even know what to hope to open.
Okay.
Fallen Empire's the top of the list there.
Sure.
Like, I guess I want a Hymn to Torak. At least that's useful.
Hongrids, Crabbies.
Yeah. Here, there's like Blood Moon, City of Brass, a couple useful cards.
All two of them.
Yeah.
You found both of them.
And you can relive the experience of what basically inspire the reserve list. You're going to go through this booster if you're fortunate enough to win. Our $10 and $25 patrons are eligible to be drawn for the winning when we do the pack opening here.
Correct.
You will relive the experience if you're fortunate enough of opening that to receive this pack, of opening it up, receiving nothing but garbage, and wondering why were people so mad about the cards that got reprinted. And the answer, which we'll get into further during this series, is that people had no idea what cards were good at all.
It's true.
So,
it's true.
Yeah, they reprinted Chromium. Chromium was the best card in my deck. In parentheses, no, it definitely wasn't. You should have cut it for literally anything if you were trying to win.
Cut it for a land.
And now everyone's got Chromium. I'm so mad.
Sure.
I'm going to call Wizards of the Coast.
I'm
going to send them letters. And then they're going to announce the reserve list. And that's one of the more influential, maybe the most influential element of Magic outside of the actual cards themselves, is the existence of the reserve list. All started here. You won't believe it if you weren't there at the time, but it is what happened.
He's going to tell you all about that because I wasn't doing the whole playing Magic thing and in a meaningful way at that point in time. Sometimes I give you a little spoiler on how long the episode's going to be. You could probably check the YouTube bar or whatever. It's not going to be very long. There's not a ton to discuss. And we've given out some low scores on this show's history. If you've seen our scoreboard at the end of the past couple of episodes, well, it's not good news for Chronicles.
How well do you think a set that is completely artless and pissed a bunch of people off going to grade?
Yeah. Yeah. You'll have to wait till the end of the show.
Yeah.
You have to wait till the end of the show.
Spoiler alert, not particularly high.
Yeah. So with that, we are going to start this episode like we always do with the facts of Chronicles. All right, everybody, we are here for the facts of Chronicles, but as you may have seen on our beautiful little graphic there, the facts of this episode and all future episodes are presented by our friends over at Tales of Adventure. Patrick, I know you know them well.
Couldn't be more excited about this partnership with Tales of Adventure. You can head over to toamagic.com. That's the website. Also, you can follow the owner, Michael Caffrey, on Twitter at TOA Michael. You're going to want to follow that Twitter account because that's going to be posting daily and weekly sales on particular items, foils, non-foils, tournament staples, commander cards, you name it. So make sure to be following over at TOA Michael to get access to those deals and promotions. TOAmagic.com has every single card in it in stock right now from Chronicles. So if anything from this episode tickles your fancy or brings up nostalgia, head over to TOAmagic.com and pick out any Chronicles singles. They're fully in stock. Additionally, use promo code RESLEEVABLES at checkout for 8% off any order. And that comes with free tracking no matter what. So again, TOAmagic.com, TOA Michael at Twitter, and make sure you use promo code RESLEEVABLES at checkout for 8% off and free tracking on any order.
Still got it. Your ad read game, still strong.
Well, I didn't read anything.
No, I know.
You were just like, say roughly this.
But you did good.
Thanks, man.
Not that. I take that back. You did very good.
Yeah. But I'm really excited about working with Tales of Adventure. some store that I've worked with over the years, been in Michael's DMs constantly, trying to hit him up for beta duels and powder and all that kind of stuff. Buy, sell, trade. I've done it all. Can't recommend them highly enough. And a feature that I really appreciate about their website is the high-end items, all individually scanned.
Yep.
So you're not looking at a lot of bayous that say LP and you have no idea what the grading is. You can click on each and every one individually to find the card and the condition and price that you're exactly looking for.
And I will add on this fun fact. They're basically at every event.
Yeah.
Every Magic Con.
Big event.
Just any like cash tournament. They're always there.
Certainly inside of the United States. I know that Michael has actually gone to location to purchase large collections from people.
Yeah.
He's willing to do that. Really great, reputable website. Michael, I've known for a very long time. I've done business with Tales of Adventure for many, many years. Buy, sell, trade, high end, random stuff, you name it. Can't recommend them highly enough. And remember, use promo code Resleevables at checkout for 8% off your order on top of free tracking for all domestic orders.
There it is. Those are the facts of Tales of Adventure. Now here are the facts of Chronicles. Let's get this party started. Whew. Chronicles is the 12th Magic the Gathering set. Hooray! It's the first compilation set. Now, when we think of a compilation, when I think of the word compilation, you know what I think?
Greatest hits.
That's exactly what I think.
Yes.
I think of some of my favorite bands. Heck, some boy bands. I listen to the NSYNC compilation, just their greatest hits.
Sure.
Backstreet Boys, let's do it. This is not Magic's greatest hits, but it is technically a compilation set. It's not considered an official expansion, though, but an extension of 4th edition. Because of this technicality, it would not count as one of the two latest expansions for the purpose of Type 2 tournament competition. Okay. Players would be able to use Chronicles in the same way that they used cards from the basic set. Wizards of the Coast planned to keep Chronicles in print as long as demand warranted it, and they planned to change the card mix just as they did with the basic set. However, I don't think the set was popular enough to warrant such a thing.
Yeah, this is sort of a chicken and egg thing. Is the issue that this is conceptually so bizarre and unappealing that people won't latch onto this and sort of buy in regardless of what the cards look like? Or is it a function of the cards are all so unappealing that it sort of casts a pall on the idea of doing it in the first place?
Yeah.
The answer is it's a lot of both.
Sure.
This is super confusing. The fact that it's connected to 4th edition, as you mentioned, but the set name doesn't use 4th edition anywhere on it.
Mm-hmm.
The expansion symbols on here are from the set that they were reprinted from,
Which is super weird.
so it looks like it's an entirely its own thing.
Yep.
There were printings of Chronicles, but slightly different in a variety of languages and a variety of borders. Are those cards legal or not? If you show up to a tournament in Japan, can you play with Iron Claw orcs in your standard deck? There's all these questions that come out of it. So at a baseline, you're already starting kind of running uphill a little bit to make this thing land. And then also the cards in this set it's basically a who's who of cards no one asked to be reprinted. I was there at the time. The idea of a reprint set was sort of exciting because I started around revised. Stuff from Arabian Nights, Antiquities was hard to get. And so the idea of, some stuff's going to get reprinted that's going to be easier to get my hands on. That's cool, right? And then
In theory.
And then you start going and it's like, well, I didn't really need Akron Legionnaire. I really didn't need Cyclone. You're just going through these packs. It's like, as someone who was enthusiastic about Magic and tried to read everything that I could possibly get my hands on about the old cards and things I'd never seen, going through a Chronicles pack and just like, I've never seen any of these cards before.
Sure.
I believe they're reprints because they have the expansion symbol on them.
Yep.
But it wasn't like the people who are really thirsting for reprints weren't satisfied by this. And it also upset a lot of people too.
Okay.
Hard to thread that needle.
So let's go over they found a way.
It's really hard.
Let's go over the purpose of Chronicles. So in theory, the purpose of Chronicles was to keep 2 steady sources of Magic available at the same time. It was to increase the pool of cards available, and it was to make it easier for new players to get a hold of useful, popular cards for their decks. We're really stretching the term useful here.
And popular.
Also true. This plan was moved away from by the time of the release of 5th edition, where extra cards were simply incorporated into the basic set. So, your core set, 5th edition, 6th edition, whatever, they just made them bigger and beefier.
Exactly. And that was also a confusing part, even as a relatively novice player. And, I was 16 or 17 years old when this set came out.
Okay.
Of what's the purpose of this? In theory, the core set already accommodates reprints. I got revised card apes when I started playing Magic. They were originally from Arabian Nights. They were then reprinted and revised, not with the Arabian Nights expansion symbol, but they put them there. Then you fast forward to 4th edition. It's like, yeah, Mishra's Factory and Strip Mine. Those were cards that were in Antiquities. Now they're in 4th edition.
Okay.
And they don't have the Antiquity symbol on them, but they're just in 4th edition and they're legal and standard now.
Okay.
So by having the expansion symbols on and putting them in its own release, it sort of suggests that it's supposed to be doing something different. But everything that this set is aspiring to do was already done in a fashion much less confusing by just reprinting cards and revised in 4th edition and then onward. So it's not surprising to me that this experiment did not last very long, because it's already starting from a position of, I don't even know why we need to do this in the first place.
Yeah.
We can already use the core sets. Maybe we don't want the core set to be that big, right?
Sure.
Maybe you want to split it up, because once we're talking about 450 cards in a core set, which is, 4th edition plus Chronicles is roughly that amount. Maybe that's just too big of a set. I can appreciate that.
Okay.
But the burden of proof is so high to do something like that. And all this combined with just the player reception to this meant that very quickly they moved to just 5th edition and beyond. We're just going to just put stuff in there.
Beef it up. Until the release of Modern Masters, which I'm sure most people watching this are familiar with, it was notable, Chronicles was, for being the only tournament legal non-core set that introduced no new cards, because it's a greatest hits set. I'm going to use that term a lot as a joke. All cards in Chronicles were from Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, and the Dark. There were 14 from Arabian Nights, 21 from Antiquities, 71 from Legends, and 19 from the Dark.
Those numbers sound pretty odd, and they are, but keep in mind that Legends was substantially larger than any of these other sets.
Correct.
So if you viewed it from the lens of, let's make sure we're reprinting the same percentage from each set, those numbers would be about right.
Okay. Let's talk about how many cards are in Chronicles. It contains 116 white bordered cards, 46 rares, 46 if you're a card sheet person, here it comes. Those 46 rares, there were 46 at U1 on the card sheet, 30 uncommons, 25 at U3 and 5 at C1, and then 40 commons, 3 at C4, 30 at C3, and then 7 at C2. Each card was white bordered, while the cards in their original sets were black bordered. And then each of the C4 rarity cards has 4 different pieces of art, making collectors view this as an 125 card set. Okay. Chronicles was released in late July 1995. It was estimated that about 180 million Chronicles cards were produced. It was available from early August 1995 and went out of print in December 1996, though it did not really slow down in availability until the end of 1996, like early 1997 time. Okay. Cards were sold in 12 card boosties, 9 from the common print sheet and 3 from the uncommon print sheet. This is where things get a little bit interesting and fun. It was printed in English and Japanese only. The Japanese version was black bordered. The English version is white bordered, because it was the first time those cards were printed in Japanese.
So WotC had a policy at the time that when a card was printed for the first time in a particular language, had to be black bordered.
Yep.
It was reprinted, it had to be white bordered.
Yep.
So Arabian Nights released in English. Therefore, City of Brass, that's English, that's a reprint. City of Brass Arabian Nights never released in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, Japanese City of Brass, that's the first printing of it in that language that receives a black border.
This is a little confusing, though I will say you explained that very well.
Yeah, it's another element of early Magic, and something that Chronicles is kind of emblematic of this is supposed to theoretically make things less confusing.
Yeah, okay.
Saying it out loud this is making things way more complicated.
Yes. Let's get more complicated actually. A similar black bordered set called Renaissance was released into German, French, and Italian markets. These contained a different array of cards because, of course, they did.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that Chronicles has its own set list, and then Renaissance, which is basically Chronicles in German, French, and Italian, has its own set list.
Because remember, we're at the point now where Legends and the Dark, two of the four sets that Chronicles draw from, were printed in Italian, but the same is not true of German and French.
Correct.
So you can see how this simplifies things.
And we have to stick to this rule.
You can see how it makes it more clear for the player of what's legal and for the collector of what cards are coming from what sets.
Yeah. I'm not confused at all.
Yeah.
Chronicles set symbol, this is my last fact here, is a globe. But the cards, they have the expansion symbol from the set they're from.
Yeah, it's basically a booster pack symbol.
Yeah. Like this globe on the pack.
But once you're talking about the cards themselves, they all have the expansion symbol of whatever set they were originally printed in.
And I guess because you brought this up during our pre-show, I didn't know this. On the back of the Chronicles booster, it says contains selected cards from the following expansions: Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, and the Dark.
Wow, there's a lot of very exciting, powerful, and hard to obtain cards in those sets. I wonder what's inside.
I want to open this right now and find out.
So excited.
Yeah, there could be some real
Is
goodies
it
in
maybe
there.
they reprinted Mana Drain?
Ooh,
What about Library of Alexandria or Juzan?
that sounds nice.
Yeah, there's got to be, something, right? They must have,
I mean, it's a compilation set. It's their greatest hits,
right.
theoretically, right? That's what I think of when I think of the word compilation. Those right there, those are the facts of Chronicles. I think you're starting to see where our final grade may be, but there's more things to cover. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it's not exactly flavor and storyline like you would think of it normally, where I do my best attempt at communicating the lore to you, because there is not anything resembling that in this set. Instead, what I have for you is how Chronicles came to be right after this. All right, everybody, we are back for the flavor and storyline of Chronicles. Now, again, this is not your normal take on flavor and storyline and lore that we do here in the Resleevables, because this is a greatest hits compilation set, and there is no storyline or characters or anything like that. Instead, I have some interesting notes on how Chronicles came to be. Are you ready?
Yeah, keep in mind that this set essentially has anti-flavor.
Yes.
It has the opposite of, it is hostile to the notion of flavor, because the four sets that it draws from, Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, and the Dark, all have very distinct aesthetics to them.
Yes.
They are what I appreciate the most about those four sets in terms of Magic sort of early volumes is you can obviously critique the power level and sort of distribution of certain things in all of these sets, but I really appreciate how big they make the world feel, because they're their own distinct spot. Arabian Nights so different from Antiquities, which is the Brothers' War, gets you to Legends, which is very sort of classic Dungeons and Dragons-y, gets you to the Dark, which is sort of a horror trope sort of setting. And we're just going to riffle shuffle all of that together into one booster and, go nuts.
So Patrick has not heard this part yet. We did our little pre-show, and I said, I'll just read this, and you're going to learn something maybe here.
All right.
Along with all of you wonderful people at home. The thought of doing a best of 1994 had been floating around the Hall of Wizards of the Coast for a while. Many cards from past expansion sets were difficult to find or had become too expensive for many players to afford. Early Magic sets had small print runs and had been carried by only a select few stores. This kind of hit and miss availability unbalanced the play of the game, as players with hard to get cards had an advantage over those whose local shops didn't carry Magic cards back when those cards were released. I assume that checks out.
There is some truth to that.
Okay. The Chronicles team decided to skew the set's card mix heavily in favor of Legends, the largest set before Ice Age. Legends diverse and powerful cards made it a very popular set, and as a result, those cards were very hard to find. Because of this, well over half the cards in Chronicles came from Legends. In general, cards were chosen because they were well designed, useful in play, and helpful to the balance of the game. The set collaborators were careful not to put extra powerful cards like the Arabian Nights Juzam Jin into the set so that those cards' market values would not be affected. Nonetheless, many popular cards such as Legends Elder Dragons were included. How we doing?
Really bad.
Okay. I got more.
Keep going.
3 decisions kept the company busy for quite a while. 3. 1 was the name. What should the set be called? Best of 1994 wasn't a great title, nor was it completely accurate. No kidding. Names considered and discarded included Mosaic. Thank you. Mosaic. That's awkward. Keep it in. Tapestry.
Okay.
And Archives.
Okay.
Many others were suggested, though not always seriously. Example, Urza's Private Reserves.
Horrendous.
Not a good name. The second decision, number 2, was what color the borders should be. It was already decided that each would retain its original expansion symbol from its set, each card. But should the cards be black bordered or white bordered? This topic was discussed at great length, and there were passionate advocates for both options. In the end, Wizards of the Coast chose to give the cards white borders since the set would not be a limited edition. White borders would also help distinguish the cards from the originals and would help preserve the value of the original cards for collectors.
That sounds like the correct decision to me.
Okay.
Based on the philosophies at the time.
The last choice to be made, number 3, was whether to include cards from Fallen Empires.
I'm sorry. That I did not know.
At the time that cards were first chosen, Fallen Empires was just shipping. And it was not yet apparent that the set would be available for a long time to come. It was assumed that by the summer of 95, when Chronicles would be released, Fallen Empires would be a memory and the cards would be appropriate to include. But by February, it was clear that Fallen Empires would be a...
Get the Hombres out of there. Get the Hombres out of there. People have way too many Hombres.
It was clear that Fallen Empires would be around for a while longer, and the designers decided to take those cards out of Chronicles entirely. Because Wizards of the Coast planned to rotate cards in and out of Chronicles in much the same way as it did with the core set, Fallen Empire cards would show up in future versions of Chronicles, which, as you learned earlier in the show, they never did that. So I had a feeling I was going to get you with that third one.
That's really funny. Just the person who's, it's the 11th hour of locking the set. There's however many Fallen Empires cards in it. And they start getting calls from the retailers of just like, stuck with 35 cases of this.
Yeah. Take them out.
Yeah.
We'll print them in Chronicles too.
Yeah. Initiative you have in hand. And, one of the Thalids, whatever you would decide to reprint out of the set or whatever, you got to get him out of there.
We'll save those for later.
It's fine. We'll have time for them right now. But right now people are they're sort of immersed already in the Fallen Empires experience.
Yeah.
It's a little too loud.
Yeah.
Let's get them out of there.
So let's talk about the reaction to Chronicles. Some cards in the set would prove to become powerful as more players experimented with them. Arabian Nights Urnham Jim proved to be exceptionally useful in concert with the 4th edition's Armageddon, and a powerful deck named Armageddon arose from this combination. Although the more valuable cards were excluded, card collectors were unhappy with the glut of cheap copies of the Elder Dragons and the like. This and the opinion that there were too many cards in the card pool triggered a statement from Bill Rose, vice president of R&D for Wizards of the Coast. Quote, "Wizards has no plans for another reprint expansion. We will continue to publish new editions of the core set with new and different reprints, as well as include reprints in expert level expansions. We're happy with the standard card pool size maxing out at around 1,500 cards. 2 3-set blocks plus 1 core set is just about that number." Much later, that decision was reversed with the printing of Modern Masters. So let me toss this to you for the reaction to Chronicles as you best remember it, because you were there. It is, I think, appropriate in this aspect, in this part of the show, to just go, all right, so what was this like?
The set really was successful in splitting the difference between two theoretically positive goals. One would be get useful cards into relatively new players' hands.
Okay.
That's a fine goal. And the other is reprint cards in a way that established players won't get upset about it, because that's been a tricky thing for Magic up until this point. People were really resistant to the idea of reprints in general. Keep in mind, we're talking about a game in 1995 with a substantially smaller card pool than what you are used to today.
Yes.
So reprints, I think the reaction was still a little bit silly at the time, but reprints in a game that have maybe 2,000 cards, it's a lot different than reprints in a game with 30,000 cards.
Sure.
You need some amount of just, we know what kind of common we want here for booster draft. That's part of it. Getting some old cards available for players, that's part of it. And also the game has pretty confidently declared, we're not going to run out of ideas. Magic at this point, there's a lot of players who like maybe they're out of ideas. And the fact that if you go from, Alpha Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, Dark, Fallen Empires, Ice Age, there's this going on.
Yeah.
With the desirability of the cards and the cards in the set. It isn't just a function of print run. That is part of it, but also the most powerful cards in the game are still the Moxes and Black Lotus and Power cards, Power Blue, and a handful of cards from Antiquities, Arabian Nights, and Legends.
Yep.
Those are still the best cards, and every set that's coming out is just less impactful than the one that came before it. So it's already tough sledding, in my opinion, to do a set of reprints like Chronicles when the game is already sort of signaling like, yeah, we're running out of steam here. Because you're going back to the old sets and just pulling stuff out of that. Are you really just that out of ideas that we need to be doing this already? And on top of that, the set actually fails at getting desirable cards into people's hands.
So that's the big one for me. Obviously not there at the time, whatever. Like, okay, you want to sell me, a consumer, on the idea of a compilation, a greatest hits, as I've been saying. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like this game hasn't been around that long, but like we've done some cool stuff. People like it. Here's our maybe first of many of these, which was kind of their plan. Okay. Well,
right.
Because there are, I'm going to be generous here and say, like, from a competitive standpoint, but even like if you are non-competitive, because I'm not a big fan of the term casual, a non-competitive standpoint, let's say you're a Commander player, even though Commander didn't exist then.
Yeah.
There's just like no good cards in here for anyone, really. Like I would argue maybe the best card in this set is Blood Moon, not fun. City of Brass, arguable in the fun meter. Earnham Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. We got 3.
So those are some cards that I really, I appreciate those 3 cards in particular being in the set. And it sort of shows what could have been.
Sure.
So these are 3 cards that are just, one, they're pretty, you can argue about good or bad gameplay wise. They're all reasonably powerful, and if you're a competitive player, appealing cards. There are also cards that are really nice to get in the hands of more players to some extent. With City of Brass, we're past the point of the original dual lands. They're gone. What does mana fixing look like in this world? City of Brass is a really useful card that's for some decks even better than the original dual lands if you're trying to do a 4 or 5 color thing.
Yep.
Great card to put in people's hands. Blood Moon, mentioned this in the episode of the Dark. It was one of the first cards that came up that if you were building on a budget, playing against people with really large collections, that was a way to catch up.
Yep.
Maybe not the most artful way to catch up,
but it was a way.
to catch up.
Yep.
So, Blood Moon was a really powerful option against decks that were just full of dual lands and City of Brass and everything else. Earnham Jin, one, I can't believe how few of the Jins and Ifrits got reprinted here, given how appealing they are. This is sort of stands out as one, and Chronicles would probably look a lot different. It wouldn't even have to be Zuzam Jin. You could do a lot just putting like the Yidwin Ifrits and Serendip Jins of the world in there, even though they aren't particularly good. They're at least appealing and have their own role. It was very nice to have Urnam in that standard format in particular. This is a really nuanced thing, but again, the original dual lands have rotated out. Some people are upset about that. Again, we're talking about this curve of power sort of feeling like it's going down. And Urnamjin actually is something that makes brush lands potentially better than Savannah.
Okay, that's
because
like a real deck building decision.
It's a real thing that came up that I could cast Urnamjin with no forests, and then there's no drawback. And that is not possible, obviously, with Savannah. Savannah is at the baseline forest. So it was sort of nice in a very subtle way to sort of get people on board with the idea of not playing with the dual lands anymore. It's like, oh, it's actually stuff you can do with the worst versions too, because they're not tagged a certain land type or whatever. And that on top of the fact that Urnam's just sort of a appealing card. They didn't give out 4/5s for 4 back then, almost no matter what the drawback was. Those three are really good examples of what could have been. Unfortunately, the rest of the set is littered with actual garbage or cards that were desirable as collector's items, but weren't really good in terms of being a competitive game piece, like the Elder Dragons is the top of the list, which had just submarined the value of all the old ones and didn't result in people playing with them in standard.
Not good.
But the three that you call out, it's proof of what could have been. Those are three really good examples of, and I'm not saying that every card needs to be that good. They stand out. Those three stand out in part because they were among the better tournament cards in the set at the time. But as having some mindfulness, what are we trying to do? What are the types of cards that we're trying to get into more and more people's hands? And not just, we have Davenant Archers and Scavenger Folk and just trash no one asked for. On top of sort of submarining the value of people's older stuff. But there were some good decisions in there. Just most of the decisions were quite bad.
So that's the flavor of the storyline and how Chronicles came to be. Now we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to go over a little set called Renaissance and what the heck was going on with that right after this. All right, everybody, we are now back for I guess I'm going to call this the Renaissance portion of the show.
Sacre bleu.
Yeah. Normally we would do the mechanics or the cycles or something like that, but this is a weird episode for a really weird set.
A subset inside of a subset inside of 4th edition.
That's right. That's what Renaissance is. So let's break it down for you. Renaissance is a reprint set, very similar to Chronicles. There are 2 versions, German and French. Let's say German plus French, and then Italian. They were both released in August of 95. The German and French versions are the same. Black bordered and contain all 122 cards that rotated into 4th edition from expansions and sets that were not printed in the 2 languages. 48 commons, 76 uncommons. There were 10 cards from Arabian Nights, there were 23 cards from Antiquities, there were 55 cards from Legends, there are 32 cards from the Dark, and then there are 2 cards that were not printed and revised. There are 2 cards from Unlimited, and these 2 cards were not printed in revised. Ironclaw Orcs and Twiddle. Okay, they're in Renaissance. Cool. The idea behind the release of this set was due to a company policy that stated that a card could not be put into a white bordered set without first appearing in a black bordered set in that language. The number of cards in each color is not the same. White has 18, blue has 18, black has 19, red has 23, green has 16. There are 25 artifacts and there are 3 lands. So that's the German and French version. Okay. So now we're going to go over the Italian version. I'm going to get out my handy dandy pronunciation guide here to see if I can pronounce this. Rinascimento. That's how you say Renaissance in Italian.
Okay.
Rinascimento. I hope I did okay. It's different from the German and French versions. Black bordered and contains only 60 cards. 25 commons and 35 uncommons. From Arabian Nights, Antiquities, and Unlimited, Legends in the Dark were already printed in Italian, so they did not get used here because they don't need to do that. These are all the cards from those sets included in the German and French versions, except for Piety, plus all 26 cards from Arabian Nights and Antiquities that were reprinted into Chronicles. Printed on 221 card print sheets, there were 3 times as many common sheets as there were uncommon sheets. Some cards would show multiple times on the sheet, making them more common than the cards which appeared only once. But unfortunately, there's no official distribution list for these sets other than common and uncommon, and the sparse sources disagree on the actual distribution. Now, Patrick, earlier in the show, you said that this was making things simpler, and you were joking. What? I just don't even know where to start.
Well, it's also especially rough because this set informs legality, right? It was supposed to be an extension of fourth edition, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the sets are different from Italian. French and German are the same because they have no printings in the 4 sets.
Yes.
But Italian is very different.
Yes.
So let's imagine I'm an Italian person.
Okay.
I'm going to go visit family in France.
Okay.
I bring my standard deck.
Okay.
Is my opponent playing with cards that are not legal in Italy?
I'm not sure. I really don't
Keep in
know.
mind, this is all about making things less complicated.
It's true.
That's the reason to do all of this,
It's
right?
true.
It's just to give people information that's really useful. They got rid of this pretty fast. If you're playing in Switzerland, like what rules apply? Are we playing Italian standard or French standard?
The thing that I enjoy about this is, so the German and French version of Renaissance is 122 cards.
Yeah.
It's like not big, but whatever. So the Italian one's 60 cards.
Right, because they don't need legends, and legends is the bulk.
It's the bulk of this, right? So the Italian one is very small. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, there's Arabian Nights Antiquities Unlimited cards, and there's not many, and it's a best of set.
Yeah.
The chances of me opening something good, pretty high.
Literally, your best hit is Ironclaw Orcs.
You can't open anything good. So
City of Brass.
If you're going into this and you're just like, oh my gosh, 60 cards, best of set from these sets.
Gotta be something.
There's got to be something good in here.
Right.
There's nothing good in here.
Yeah.
So that is quite the player experience, I'm sure. There was the chance that we might pick up some Renaissance packs, but just didn't bother. We got our Chronicles packs. That's good enough. I don't really know how this was received in France, Germany, or Italy, but if it was received in the same way that it was in the States, probably not very well.
Cards look cool, at least.
That's true.
I do appreciate now, you see, black bordered Blood Moon with the dark expansion symbol, but it's in German. I was like, cool. Okay. Those are kind of neat game pieces to have laying around. I don't know how useful it was at the time. But they add a little something to Magic sort of, almost 30 years after the fact. Sure.
There you go. A little something positive. It's break time. That's all we've got for the Renaissance portion of the show. Very strange. Fun to Google, though. Take a look. I'm sure if you go on to TOA, they might have some Renaissance cards laying around there.
TOAmagic.com.
Yeah.
Again, promo code Resleevable at checkout.
Look at them go.
8% off
Look at
your
'em
order. And keep in mind, free tracking on any domestic order.
I just did a little looking around. Renaissance MTG. So what could I find? Because I didn't know. So I knew Chronicles was a thing. I did not know Renaissance was a thing until I did the research for this. And it's like, okay, sure. Again, I don't know if anybody's jazzed about it, but it exists. After this break, we have a very short misprint section for you. And then we get into the real fun part of the show. So short break, misprints coming up. All right, everybody, we are here for the misprints section of Chronicles / Renaissance. You may notice on our little bottom bar that tells you where things are going. We don't have a trivia section. There's no trivia of this set other than people didn't like it, apparently. Misprints for Chronicles. Got a doozy here for you. Wall of Shadows has the Antiquities expansion symbol, an anvil, when it should have the Legends expansion symbol, a pillar.
Yep,
there you go. That's one.
I remember that.
Misprints from Renaissance. The French Winter Blast is missing the Legends expansion symbol, pillar. The German, is it piety? Piety?
Well, it's derived from the word pious.
I'm going to go with piety then.
So I assume it's piety, but
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
The German piety mentions the wrong verse numbers in its flavor text.
So heresy.
Sure. That.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for Misprints.
At least that's something.
They didn't get much wrong.
Because it's just copy pasting the file over.
It's just copy pasting the file over, and they screwed up some of the copy pasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not that much.
But yeah, just kept it to minimal mistakes. So guess what? This section, donezo, shortest one we've ever done, which means we are going to take another short break. And when we come back, it's time for the award show. We're going to try to give out awards in this set. Yeah, we are. See you in a second. All right, everybody. Normally, I say that this is your favorite part of the show, our favorite part of the show. It's the award show. It is real tough to dole out awards to this. Like, really hard.
It's pulling teeth. Yeah.
So we're going to start for the award show for Chronicles with the Oko Thief of Crowns Award for best card in the set. My selection is Blood Moon. Get some more of those out there in the ecosystem to mana screw people that had dual lands before you started playing.
Exactly. And my answer, the yin to his yang, City of Brass. Yeah. Just fix some mana.
That's right.
You know, you can cast Urnam off of that thing, and guess what? No forest.
Tough.
Give forest walk to your biggest thing. Suck.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter
at all. Now we're going to move on to the Carnival of Souls Award for worst card in the set. A lot of choices in this one. I'm going to let you start.
Just a kid from Akron. The Akron Legionnaire.
Not even supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be in this set, but here I am.
Yeah.
This card, stinky.
Right.
Not good.
It's actually a really great, the I'm not even supposed to be here is really great because it sounds humble, but really it's taking the spotlight away from everyone else. And that is mechanically what this card does. It's the only thing that can attack once it's in play.
That's right.
Everyone else is just watching.
Yeah, just hanging out.
Hang out in the short corner.
That's right.
For the ball to come their way.
Kevin Love in the corner. Just pass it. I'm ready to shoot. I found a real doozy. Thanks to you. I'm going to go with the Book of Wrass, which I had never seen before. Look, this is the greatest hit set, and so they felt the need to put in this 6-mana artifact that you can pay 2 mana and pay 2 life to draw a card.
Keep in mind, they just reprinted J&J Tome in 4th edition again. So it's like, well, what if J&J Tome was just too easy to use and appealing and people didn't like it? All right, well, we'll put Book of Wrass in there. Like, it's not even fulfilling any sort of role that is of particular use. It's just doing it for the sake of doing it.
That's right. Okay. There are a lot of options for worst card in the set, by the way, if you ever take a look at this set list. But we're going to move on to the Doomblade Award for best non-rare in the set. My selection was Tormod's Crypt, which I don't know how good it was back in the day. I don't really know if people were really utilizing their graveyard in a meaningful way.
It was not that useful initially.
Okay.
It was pretty rare to play against decks that were that extreme, and those decks were typically not very good.
Okay.
So it took a little while for Magic to evolve to a place where Tormod's Crypt became a useful sideboard card.
Okay.
But we're still talking about an era where 0 mana artifacts or just have a certain appeal to them. Part of that is the Moxes and Black Lotus. Part of that is just doing something for free.
Sure.
Is a fun thing. And so the card was still around in people's sideboards at the time, even though it was really rare to play against anyone where you would ever want to do that.
Okay.
But 0 mana does a lot to just give it some charm and put it in people's decks.
Your selection for best non-rare. Do you remember?
I believe was it also Tormod's Crypt?
No, you're going to counter a creature.
Oh, Remove Soul.
Yeah.
This is another cool. Let's get that into some people's hands.
All right.
It's also not now, of course, Magic was just pathologically addicted to putting counterspell in every single set at this point in time in the game's history. So the card didn't have purpose until later on. But yeah, that's a great role player to put in people's collections.
Okay.
Kind of a weird one to get your hands on. I believe it was in Legends originally. And you know, given the size of the set, even the commons were pretty hard to locate. It's a great reprint choice.
Okay.
Useful. Very
Can't
useful.
say that about a lot of cards in Chronicles. So good for you, Remove Soul. Aboro Palace in the Clouds Award for fun of one of in the set.
I'm going to give it to Recall.
Okay.
Love Recall. Couple things going on here. It's restricted. It is horrendous just not even close to halfway decent. Now, I guess when you can play with 4 copies of this, there's stuff that you can start to do. But also what I appreciate about Recall is often when you have the ability to bring something back from your graveyard, it's just like, all right, I just get the best thing back, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Regrowth, all right, I get Ancestral Recall back or Time Walk back. That's pretty much what's going on here. This, as the game goes on, you can get back enough stuff that you can actually start thinking about, oh, what are like combos I could put back together out of my graveyard?
Okay.
It's not just a question of what's the best thing on rate, but now I have the ability to assemble A plus B out of my graveyard and do something cool. So Recall, super fun, super modest, beloved at the time. People were really excited to get to play with this card more. And it takes a lot for me at this point in time in my life to cut a card that is restricted from my deck because I'm like, I think this thing is just bad. Recall was the first one where I'm like, I can't. It's 3 mana and discard a card to Regrowth.
Yeah.
And Regrowth's already a card that I'm sort of starting to cool off a little bit on.
Okay.
And the upside is as the scales on, is like, okay, so I get to tap out and then this gets mana drained.
Yeah, sure.
That's not great.
This gets countered by something.
So Recall also taught me a valuable lesson. Before you give your answer, also, much the same thing. I want to give a shout out to Felden's Cane, another card that was restricted because it was too popular, not because it was any good.
That card was popular,
and people loved it, and we're very excited to get their hands on more copies.
My answer is Tormod's Crypt. I am taking a modern approach to this, or should I say a pioneer approach to this, as a fun of one of. Karn the Grey Creator can find it in a sideboard, so that's why I picked it.
And it's super appealing with Karn the Grey Creator. You know why? Because it costs 0
mana.
You just do it on turn 4, pick it up, put it down, do its thing. 0 mana, undefeated.
That's right.
Still so much fun.
Mana Confluence Award for Best Vintage Cube card in the set. Slim pickings here, so we have the same answer.
I believe City of Brass.
That is correct.
It's a useful card. You can cast cards from all 5 colors with it.
I believe, City of Brass is not in the Vintage Cube currently.
No, I don't believe so.
It is Mana Confluence. And,
Boo.
And 2, if memory serves, when I did a look through the Chronicles set list on Scryfall, there's not another card that was even close to Vintage Cube playable in here.
Yeah, there's no. I mean, it is.
I'm doing a quick check.
Bone dry.
Yeah, just a kid from Akron, maybe as a joke, but probably not even that. Can you imagine that being a reanimator target?
Oh well, it's kind of good as a reanimator target because it's your only creature, so you're kind of fading the drawback.
I know. Just saying. Okay, let's move on to the Smothering Tide Award for Best Commander card in the set. My selection, after going to the lovely website of EDH Rec, Dakin Blackblade.
It's awesome.
Cool card.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to... I got to give a shout out here to one of the originals in this space, Nicol Bolas.
Yeah.
It's just... It's cool to think that, like, part of the reason that Commander got so big, originally Elder Dragon Highlander, is because the 5 dragons from Legends are cool. And Nicol Bolas, iconic character eventually, not at the time, because all 5 dragons were the same sort of shine. Nicol Bolas eventually became a very significant storyline character. And second, of the 5 Elder Dragons, the one that's actually kind of threatening. Getting hit by it's bad.
You lose everything.
Yeah. The rest of these is just irrelevant.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. Nicol Bolas is legitimately good sometimes.
Yeah.
in contrast to the rest of these. And any Elder Dragon you got to give some love to because they end up becoming pretty influential in the way that Magic gets played nowadays.
We're going to go to the Pack Rat Award for Best Limited Card in the set. Now, doing this with Chronicles is a little different because that assumes that a person has played a game of Chronicles Limited.
I'll throw it out there. I have not.
Yeah.
If I have not, I doubt many people have.
This assumes that a single person, well, actually, I take that back. This assumes that 8 people were like, yo, you want to draft Chronicles? Okay. So the struggle is real. I just decided to go with something that I think is generically powerful in Solkanar, the Swamp King.
All right, I'm giving my vote to Witch Hunter.
All right.
I'm pretty sure this is a set where it's impossible to kill a creature.
Okay. We played this game before.
I don't think you can kill a creature.
I'm gonna go.
I think maybe one of the legends can tap to deal some damage.
Okay, so you can boomerang a creature.
You have remove soul.
You can counter a creature before it comes in. Black, you think that black would have removal?
A lot of 1/1s, not a lot of removal.
Not seeing any removal there. Red, any lightning bolt-esque cards?
Oh my, no.
No.
Too appealing.
None of the. Green doesn't have anything because it's green. Gold. So there's got to be some sort of gold creature that deals damage here.
Yeah, I think the archer maybe does some damage.
Is it like Torwaki? Is that what it was
I think that's right.
Torwaki deals 2 damage to target attacking or blocking.
Oh, never mind. Can't touch the Witch Hunter.
Witch Hunter ain't doing that.
Yeah, it's Witch Hunter. Okay. I'll give it to Witch Hunter.
All right. Witch Hunter I think Witch Hunter might just be a banger here.
Yeah, just busted.
Okay.
Busted.
Yeah. We're going to go to the Char Rumbler Award for weirdest card in the set. Your answer.
Tackle Maggot.
That's bad.
Make jokes about it all the time. Still don't quite know what it does.
I think it's won an award for you originally. What set was it in originally? Legends?
Yeah. I know we played a multiplayer game once where Eugene Harvey had that thing going. And I was like, I'm not playing this anymore. Now I'm done reading this card. Can't figure out what's going on.
I decided to go with Gauntlets of Chaos, which I didn't know was a card until I read all of this set. It's a 5-mana artifact. You pay 5 mana up front, and you pay 5. Sacrifice the gauntlets. Choose a target artifact, creature, or land opponent controls, and a target permanent you control of the same type. Exchange control of these permanents. Bury any enchantments played on these permanents.
Sick.
There you go. A little swapperooski.
Yeah.
Just takes 10 mana for me to take your Witch Hunter.
Yeah.
And beat
but then it's not like there's any rush.
That's right.
What are we doing in the meantime?
That's true.
Nothing.
We will now move on to the blank award for best card name in the set. You can go first.
I'm going to change my answer.
Oh, no. Okay, Chromium down.
Chromium down. Already gave some love to the Elder Dragons. Nebuchadnezzar.
Okay.
So sweet.
Okay. That's just a fun word to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Hell's Caretaker for me.
Awesome name.
I'm also going to, little fun fact here, by the way, that I've noticed in doing some researching, and I don't know what the deal is with this. I noticed this when I did my research for Homelands and Alliances. They just don't capitalize H's.
Interesting.
So, Hell's Caretaker?
Lowercase h. Interesting.
And this is a frequent mistake. And it's really weird to me because in the summon creature type Hell's Caretaker, the H is capitalized.
Very weird.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly which set it was, but like every card in one of the sets that like one of the words in the card name that starts with an H, lowercase. Every time.
I never noticed that myself. Curious, there's got to be a story there.
I assume.
I'm gonna get on the horn with some of the old.
Nobody noticed.
I'm gonna get on the horn with some of the old heads over at WotC. See if we can get down to the bottom of this.
We have the John Avon Award for best land artwork in the set. I picked Urza's Power Plant, Busy Bee Edition. I think it's a very easy selection. A lot of people like that one. You selected.
I love Safe Haven.
Okay.
Love the art. Also, the fact that it's sort of a cave that someone's living in. The background looks desolate. It actually kind of makes sense for a land that doesn't tap for any mana. It is hard to convey that.
Yeah.
And I think that design does a pretty good job for what it is.
There is no Aurelius Fury Award for most overhyped card during preview season or Tarmogoyf Award for most underhyped card during preview season. I think there was probably general discontent and disappointment here with Chronicles, which means, everybody, that we have one thing left to do. What card won the set? Assuming there is a winner here in Chronicles.
Urnam Jin.
Okay.
It was a card that was very exciting for people to get their hands on. It was actually useful in turn play. It was by no means a dominant or frustrating game piece. And it is emblematic of maybe what could have been with some better choices among the file. It's still, I think, in many ways, the most iconic card from Chronicles. Because Blood Moon and City of Brass have been reprinted over and over again.
Yep.
Urnam is kind of like, this is the Chronicles one. I know it eventually got reprinted in Judgment for God knows what reason.
New artwork.
New artwork.
Yeah.
Look at this card from your childhood that you used to love.
Yeah.
Look how horrendous it is now.
It's back.
But it does. That is the one card that I look at and I think like that's That's from Chronicles. That's a Chronicles specific thing, even though I know it's originally from Arabian Nights, and is an expression of the best of what the set has to offer and what could have been.
I'm going to go, I selected Nicol Bolas, but I'm just going to say the Elder Dragons in general.
Yeah.
Because, look, I wasn't there at the time, like I said, based off of everything that I've read and researched and conversing with you, people cared about these cards. They thought they were cool because they're big and they're splashy, which makes a lot of sense, even though none of them realistically were any good. So,
yeah.
Okay. And now we're going to give the set a grade. And I believe for the first time ever, we have the same grade. Does your grade still hold true?
I would give Chronicles a 1.
Put it up for Roman Reigns. Put your ones in the air. This set is such a disaster. I believe, like, I was going to say I can't believe it exists, but this set is the full, like, heart is in the right place, kind of a decent idea of best of 1994. Execution is an F minus, minus, minus. So badly, in fact, that they just went, we're not doing this ever again. And they just immediately cut bait. We're just like, we're done. We're not doing this again. The Homelands thing, we're just like, or Fallen Empires, we're going to put some cards in here. And it's like, never mind. It's just, that immediately is just like, okay, this is not going well.
It's really hard to fail in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Like you would think just by accident, you would at least get a C- in there somewhere, just sort of by accident. So this is an extension of 4th edition, but there's no way to know that by the name of the set or the packaging art or anything.
Yep.
So in terms of adding needless complexity to standard, it does that. It's a set that really upset players who were around for a long time because many of their cards that were sort of collector's items plummeted in value. It did not serve the need of sort of leveling the playing field. Like once you've paid the cost of we're going to reprint some cards, people are going to be upset, things are going to drop in value, whatever, and at least put some useful cards in people's hands.
Didn't do that.
They really did not do that here either.
Yep.
The set, as I mentioned before, is I think the set that's most hostile to the idea of Magic as an art form. There is an anti-creative element to it because it's slapping together all these disparate things from very different worlds. There's no cohesion there whatsoever. And the reaction to this was so bad that it prompted the reserve list, which my personal opinion is now that it's here, it's kind of unwinding it would be really, really hard. But to me, that the game would clearly be better if this never existed in the first place. The fact that the 10 revised dual lands are on the reserve list is one of the biggest hurdles to playing Magic as a serious commander player or as a legacy/vintage player.
Yep.
It's really been detrimental, setting aside the fact that Wizards can't monetize it if you care about that sort of thing. And the reserve list was spurred in large part by a response to the set. The expectation was going forward that, well, they're just going to reprint everything. Eventually, they're just going to put the Moxes and Black Lotuses and something, right? Like, look what they did here. They just put a bunch of $20 and $30 cards in here. And Wizards needed to walk that, or felt they needed to walk that back at least. So you have a set that didn't help new players, and in fact was confusing in their experience, upset established players, did more to signal that Magic's just kind of doing this. It's less power and less new ideas per set. And their reaction to the sum of everything in this set was so severe that it prompted Wizards to come up with the reserve list.
So nowadays, when people are like, new set comes out, oh no, this is the death of Magic, whatever, right? We've been hearing that for probably the entire duration that we've been playing, right? Just, be it this set sucks, I don't like these cards, power level, power creep, blah, 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 whatever thing you want to say, right? It's never true. We're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Magic as we record this episode. It's awesome. Magic at this point, again, remember, I was not really playing in any meaningful way. You were.
Mm-hmm.
We got real close, it feels like.
We did. And we're not even at Homelands yet.
I know. Yeah. I know.
But there is a real signal coming down the pipeline here from Fallen Empires, Ice Age, Chronicles, Homelands. That collection of sets. I think you can also bundle 4th edition in there too.
Okay.
Of just like, they're out of ideas. There's nothing left here. And they're never going to make new sets with like exciting cards and mechanics. That was really the feeling at the time. And Chronicles is different than Fallen Empires and Homelands and Ice Age because it is a bunch of reprints. But the fact that it is, one, a bunch of reprints in a game that's this young, and two, it's so bone dry when there's so many cards out there that people would love to have gotten their hands on. I'm not saying you should reprint the boxes in a product like this.
Yeah,
but
sure.
But the average player knew that they were sandbagging them, like in spite of all of this. Like, I know what the most desirable cards are in this game, the most powerful ones. None of them are in here.
Yeah, okay.
This is just a different, like, what is this even?
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a lot of downward momentum going on at the time with the print run of Fallen Empires and how, like, low power and inscrutable and unappealing Ice Age was. This set, then Homelands is really the bottom of that experience. And then, not to spoil too much, but Alliances gets it all the way back up and then some.
Start to get moving around Alliances. Now, the Homeland script is done.
Yeah.
The Alliances script is like 80% done. So I know exactly what's going on there. And you're right. Like we go really far down with Homelands and then we start to elevate back up. But, you know, if you think about back then, Magic is popular, right? And so, you know, you started very early in Eugene and all that other stuff, right? And let's imagine that, you know, you're like, this game's great. And then Fallen Empires comes out, right? And you're just like telling your friends, like, you got to start playing. New set just came out, whatever. They get like some Fallen Empires. They started Fallen Empires.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, what are you talking about? This isn't, your cards are better than mine. I can't get the cards that you have. These cards suck. It's like, okay, well, like the next set's going to be good. No. Okay, well, the next set's going to be good. No. And so, like, if you started playing around Fallen Empires or 4th edition, and then you stopped, that would make a lot of sense to me.
I run into a lot of people over the course of my life who like have played Magic at some point. And when you say to a lapsed player, you know, I play Magic, you're bound to get a variety of responses. Like, oh, I remember that game. That was fun. Or I had this deck that was cool.
Yep.
You know, well, the response that you get sometimes is, oh, is that game still around?
You do get that response.
And you're like, no, it's actually like bigger than it's ever been, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the next time you get someone who says, is that game still around? Ask them when they stopped playing. Especially if they're around my age.
Yeah.
And I almost can promise you that it's Ice Age, Fallen Empires, Chronicles, 4th edition, and Homelands. It's somewhere in that
It's got to be
constellation
in that general area.
Because it was like, yeah, it felt like the game was dying. Not that I had any insight into Wizards' financial, like I didn't know if they were in trouble, but in terms of what is brilliant about Magic is it's an evolving game. I'm not just playing because of the moment now. It's that 3 months from now, it's going to be different, and 6 months and so on for the rest of my life.
It's the thing that we still love about it now.
Yes. And there was a feeling at that time that even I felt of like, we've hit a dead end there, and there's no getting out of it. And Chronicles really represented like a lot of that sensation and feeling at the time. And
I'll also say this to Chronicles because, and this is the last time I'm going to make a greatest hits joke. Do you remember like that, those albums, Now This Is What I Call Music?
Yeah.
You remember those? Because they
course.
made like 1 million of them. Just imagine if the first one they made was just all songs that no one listened to.
Right.
Or just like there's like one good one on there.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what I call music, volume 1. It's like, there's no good songs on here though. It's really weird. So let's imagine again, like the picture I just painted about like new player starts playing like Fallen Empires, right? So like 4th edition Fallen Empires, that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chronicles is announced in some form or fashion, and it's like it's a compilation set. It's a greatest hits set. So you know what? We understand that you weren't here at the beginning of the game. We're happy to have you, and we've made a set with cards from these 4 sets that you didn't get access to and are hard to get. Right? Yeah. Like you can imagine like that marketing and everything.
Absolutely.
And then they're like, awesome. Like my friends have better cards than me that I don't have access to. They're expensive. They're hard to find. The local area doesn't have them. They're making a set for a person like me who just got started. Everybody's telling me this is great. And now I've got access to getting to these old cards, except for you don't.
There's some old cards in there.
There sure are.
Yeah.
What a disaster.
Really, really bad stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not even just bad. It's like depressing.
Yes.
Like you can look at Homelands and Fallen Empires and go like, those sets are bad. Those sets are overprinted. But at least there's some cards you thumb through and it's like kind of fun and joyful to look at some of them.
Sure.
There's none of that experience here.
No. This experience is just really confusing.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like if you're new, you're probably just like, okay, so these cards are white bordered, but they have the other, like, I don't really know, like white border versus black border. And then like they have the symbols of the old cards, I think, but like, why do they have that? Because it's not really from there. So this is really confusing to me. Also, like, what good cards are in the set? Because I can't just go on the internet and look it up, right? Maybe you're just buying booster packs and cracking packs and just consistently going like, there has to be something good in here, except for there's really not. This is really weird. And then also, like your cards that you're opening from these sets just aren't particularly valuable either.
It is the doing your taxes of Magic sets.
Yeah. It's just, this is a wild experience.
It's complicated. It's disappointing. You ask yourself the entire time, like, what's even the point of this? Like, they already have all my information. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a profoundly joyless set. And it stands out that way even against other sets that are mostly or entirely reprints.
Yep.
I don't have that experience going through 4th edition or 5th edition.
Sure.
But Chronicles it's like it. I don't know what to say. It makes me sad.
That's because it is sad.
It's very sad.
We're going to take a look at something that makes us a little bit happier. We have a scoreboard for you fine folks to take a look at to see how we've rated other sets. As we have given Chronicles a 1 each. This is our lowest rated set for both of us. And this day was inevitably going to come.
Yes.
This was unavoidable. Now, I didn't think we'd both give a 1 at the same set. After reviewing this set, I think you'd probably agree at home that this is not very well executed in any meaningful way. But I thought this was going to come around cold snap time. We got here much sooner than I thought.
Yeah, there's something I haven't really thought about some of my other sets on the short list for worst set ever. This almost doesn't count as a set.
I know.
To me, because there's no ideas.
There's no nothing.
There's no
storyline. There's no characters. There's no nothing.
Yeah. This is like if like very early AI made a set.
Sure.
It's hard for me to believe. I know this is going to sound, maybe this sounds like a joke, and it partially is, but like, it's hard for me to believe that human beings made this.
So
it's so hostile to the notion of art.
I have been thinking so here's what I've been thinking. I've been thinking something similar, which is some non-zero number of people sat down and were just like, yeah, we want all these cards in the set. Review, and obviously, like, you do game design, I don't. So there's some point someone reviews the final file and they're just like, send it to print.
Yeah.
And just no one was like, hang on. There are no good cards in this set. Or how are we going to sell this set? Or how are we going to market? There's just at no point it feels like someone intervened outside of the Fallen Empires thing where it's like, right, get those cards out of here.
Yeah. What was the moment when someone raised their hand and said, hey, just so you know, the 11th most powerful card in the set is Goblins of the Flarg. Are we okay? Are we okay sending the set out the door like this? Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Go. Just get it out. We got to get the final card Monday. They got to start printing tomorrow.
Bleak.
So, yeah. Well, everybody, that's Chronicles. Here you go. You got yours?
No, I gave it back to you, and then
we are gonna do a crack a pack of this set.
Yeah.
We do it for every set, so we're gonna do a crack pack Chronicles. That'll be up soon for you to watch. If you're not a patron and you want to be eligible to win a pack of Chronicles, you can head over to patreon.com/ theresleevables, where you can become a patron, whatever level you are comfortable with. Of course, if you are a patron of $5 or greater, you get access to our wonderful Unsleeved podcast that we do 3 times a month. And if you are a $10 or $25 patron, then you can be eligible to win a pack of Chronicles. You can also follow us on Twitter /X at theresleevables as well. And on tap, this guy over here, he does a nice job of making sure the inventory is full. You found some.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how much they cost. Probably not a ton.
Not important.
But here they are. Homelands.
I'll say this. The packaging art is really beautiful.
It's not bad.
Really love the packaging art.
It's not bad. It stands out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's its own thing. We're doing Homelands next, everybody. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's going to be really bad. And you're partially right. But you're not as right as you think, because they do something in Homelands, which I'm not going to tell you. They do something in Homelands that they execute extremely well.
I will say this to Homeland's credit.
Okay.
You can tell that there are people who loved Magic who worked on it.
Yes.
That is not, I mention that because that's not necessarily true of every set at the time.
Sure.
But Homelands, there's some love in there. It needed a little bit more tough love. But there is some real love in there.
Perhaps. So, our next episode is Homelands, and we hope that you're here for it. We hope you, of course, have enjoyed this episode on Chronicles and our past episodes where we've covered all of our other sets and episodes of the Unsleeved podcast and our Crack-A-Packs as well. But for this guy over here, Patrick Sullivan, I'm Cedric Phillips. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Resleevables, and we'll see you next time for Homelands. Akron Legionnaire. Let's see. He's from Akron. Yeah, I'm just a kid from Akron. Just a kid. Except for Akron Legionnaire, non-artifact creatures you control cannot attack. So this is the only thing they can attack when you have it in play.
Well, on your side.
Oh, right. Right. Okay.
No, that's just you.
Yeah.
That's just you, dog.
Okay. Okay, that card's horrible. All right, yeah, you can have that one.
Man.
Holy crap. I don't really know what to do about this Shadow John. I hope it doesn't make the recording horrible.
Take it out and post.
Yeah, assuming that's a thing you can do.
I've heard that's a thing that editors can do.
Yeah.
So just consider that to be like, just the decree. Anything that you see or hear that you don't like, doesn't seem professional, that's on you to take it out and post.
Make me thin.
Yeah.
Even though I run every day. I had ice cream today.